And I welcome Dr. Christy Paulina to enlighten us. Welcome, ma'am, and it's over to you. Ma'am, unmute your audio.
Are you
Yes.
able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Albert, sir. Thank you so much for your warm and comforting words. At the outset, I thanked Lavender Literary Club, Cape Comorin Trust, Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association for uh, inviting me to be the resource person for the international workshop on research, article writing, and publications in high impact journals. And I would also like to add Dr. Benison and Joachim sir. For Joachim sir was telling about me. Thank you so much, sir. And your lecture was wonderful. And I was pretty confused when, being me and Joachim sir being in English literature, I was thinking, we should not be telling the same thing over and over again. And thank God, I have prepared on publication. And this presentation is purely on my experience, where I would like to note that Albert Shaw has said about cloned journal. I've been a victim of it. Being an organizer for conferences, I have been victim. I lost several thousands in cloned journals. And I started this WhatsApp group especially for arts and humanities, because we do not have much of good journals as science people have. And so I wanted to give an awareness. So I generally get their papers and review and tell them whether this journal or this paper is suitable for UGC care or Scopus or for SSCI or Arts and Humanities Citation Index. So this is what I'm doing actually now, because when I see a lot of people giving me papers, I find a lot of things missing. So repeatedly, English literature people were telling me, ma'am, why can't we create a group for English? And also, why don't you give us how to write a paper? So as Joachim sir has said, he has given on what SSA, social sciences people need to concentrate on. I would like to add a little, I would say, a flavor to it. I'm sharing my screen. Um, Albert sir, I'm not able to share my screen. Can I send it over to you?
Yeah, yeah, please. I'll send you through WhatsApp.
Yes. One second, I'm trying actually. Is my screen? I'm just sharing,
Yeah, yes. Come.
but I think this is
Yeah, it
my
has. It has come. It has come. Yes.
okay.
Just make it enlarged. Yes.
Is it enlarged?
Yeah. Put it in PPT mode.
Yeah. I'm very poor with computers.
Okay. Just down there. Just go.
Slideshow. Yeah.
Yeah, slideshow from the beginning. Start from beginning. First one. Yeah. Oh yes, sure. Super.
So, what is a high impact journal? That is what we need to know. It is high impact journal are journals with personal reputation for high quality research and which makes ourselves more visible to the research community. This is what every knack or nerve is expecting us. As Alberta has said, we do not want in any other journals. We need to be in an high impact journal. So high impact journals, when do we get, why do we want to get published our papers in high impact journals? We get citations. When we get citations, our H index would be improving. So you as a researcher would be visible to the research community. So this is what is very important nowadays. When we go for Indian journals, we don't find much of Indian authors itself giving good quality papers in the terms of social sciences. So it is like a researcher's contribution to the respective institution or the research funding body, which is very much important today. And the four factors which are very much important are: we have to publish first initially, when a research person, when a PhD scholar is entering into research, we cannot expect everybody, we have to study for standard and then we are going into PhD, right? Going a long way through PhD. The same way we have to start with a low impact factor journal, and then we have to consider the cost, because APC of Taylor and Francis or Sage, open access charges, all that would be there. So we have to see which suits our budget. Most of high impact journals are free, but when you need to get more citations, we need open access. So at that I will be talking later. Then also it talks about appropriate journal for your research. How do we check appropriate journal? So there are websites, I would say even Taylor and Francis, Springer or Sage, they have, when you praise your abstract, they give appropriate journals. So in that way, you can have your own journal, which journal suits your keywords and your abstract, because many of them, they send paper to me and they say which journal is useful. No, we should not do that. That is what we are doing, a mistake. So we need to first find an appropriate journal of what content you're thinking of or what you want to present it as a paper, and then we have to proceed with the writing with along with the scope of the journal. Then we have to, before you write a paper, you have to study the journal, study in the journal author guidelines, and what are the things they are expecting, what terms they are having. So if some cases they expect funding, so we need to do what we have to do when we submit, what the journal expects the particular researcher. So what suits you, you go and have a detailed study of the journals. And then for an aspiring researcher, it is obviously you need to have high impact journal. And why a high impact journal is at the last, it would be our end product. But before that, to enter into it, you need to have high quality and you have novelty. This is very important, because novelty in the sense, you have to have a new idea. That is what in social sciences or in literature, everybody, we talk about feminism, now ecofeminism. So feminism, Derrida, all that, they're old. Now they have, now a time has come, LGBT, a time has come where you're talking about transnational, that even all that has come, new literature. So we have to concentrate on about new literature. Even you can take Shakespeare, but how can you tell that the traditional literature, how it has an impact in this new world? So that kind of research we have to do. And also for a researcher, for a PhD student, the supervisor, the mentor is very important, because he knows what we are capable of. He knows what you can work for, so he will guide you. So when you have doubts, some people do not take the pressure to go to the mentor and ask doubts. You can ask them, and they will make us realize which is important, how we need to be narrowed when we go in the road of research. Then essential requirements for good research and debate. So study design is very important. That also, you have to design your research in the way that introduction, methodology, as sir has said, qualitative, quantitative, what kind of research you're going to have, what kind of design you're going to have, that you have to understand. Then what are the strategies that we have to follow? It is talking about the choice of the journal I already said, and also we have to have a list of journals and review them. Where do we get the list of journals, you would ask? You can go to UGC Care website, or you can go to Taylor and Francis Springer, and you can go to MLA directory. Okay, that's very good. I have that link. If anybody want, you can ask me. I can send it to you. It has all kind of social sciences literature. For example, literature. MLA has lot of literature journals, so you can go into that and you can verify each journal. You can take in and you can review it. You can see the sample papers. Certain Elsevier or certain other journals, they have a sample paper. You can see that sample paper, what kind of research questions they've asked, how they have progressed throughout the throughout the paper. All that you can see. And uh, um, and then, uh, because I'm just skipping, because many things Jochen sir has already pointed out, so I'll be concentrating on which is not spoken. So why is the title important? So everybody, after writing the article, we would be writing the title, or no, title is not of given much importance, because I have seen many people, when they are giving me four big words, big words, they used to put it on the title, and the title would not be having any prepositions or particular articles, and the title itself would be having a lot of mistakes. So what is very much important is the title. So we have to give more concentration on the title. So we have to give what your research about. It can tell, it would be very crispy. If your title is very good, the reviewer would understand what your research paper is going to be about. And then we have to also reflect on the content should be reflected in the title. And also, a good title should be precise. It should not run along for 4 lines or 3 lines. It has to be precise. It has to convey the theme of your research, and it has to highlight the essential of your research. And it is always a good idea to write down. Sometimes I say, no, this mistake I myself have done. Only one title, and at the last minute, when we are sending it to the journal, we write the title and say, no, that is not the way we have to do it. We have to always write down few titles, and we have to then describe what kind of content has to be there. All that we have to decide. Then comes the abstract. So how the abstract should be? The abstract should be the reflection of the main theme. So when we send books to Taylor and Francis, and when we send a book proposal, for example, they would be asking only the abstracts. They would not ask us the other, full paper or whatever. So when they ask us the abstract, when we ask the abstract, they ask us to file up the abstracts and send. Why? Because the abstract is the reflection of the main theme of the manuscript. Abstract is very important. By seeing your abstract, your papers might be accepted, or your papers might not be accepted. So summary, it should answer these key questions: and what has been done, why did we find, why these findings are helpful and important, and what is your scientific contribution. All these three things should be there in your abstract. Then if you follow that simple format, our abstract will be comprehensive and distinguished. And later, everybody makes a mistake of the cover letter, because the cover letter, everybody, people copy cover letters. Don't do that. You have to write your own cover letter. The cover letter is very much important as the abstract, because we should not make, the dedication of the particular researcher is found in the cover letter. So if it occurs when the authors send their paper, when you send it to the one journal, they would be applying. And if it is getting rejected, the same cover letter they would be, without seeing or without doing any changes according to the editor-in-chief name, or addressing the committee of the journal, they give it as it is. So that is a very grave mistake most of us do. And also, it talks about the letter. It should not be too short and too long. It should not be repeating the abstract. You have to focus on what your research is about, what new research you have done, and what kind of help is going to do to the community, or what is the purpose of your research. This is what should be our main idea. So how does your research fits in the scope of the journal? So you have to be very sure about it. When we are sending a paper to an high impact journal, or again I would say a Scopus indexed journal, our research should fit with the scope of the journal. That we have never forget. So how do we find the scope of the journal? Go to the website. There are aims and scope they would be giving us. So when I receive many journal contributions, people add like biology or chemistry or physics or like that, and at the last they would add also humanities. The thing is, your papers will be published, but your papers will not get indexed. But our motto, our thing is, what it is we have to have our paper indexed. So this is what is necessary. Most of the sometime I think Turkey journal, as sir pointed out, 3,000 papers were indexed, and in a week all the papers were removed. So we have to have an in-depth research then. So how do we have an in-depth research? So you have to read major articles related to your topic. As I said, if you want to publish in particular journal, for example historical review journal, go to that journal and read leading papers. They would be saying most cited papers. Take those papers and read. And we also have to have recent books also. You can read major books that been associated with your research, that also you can read. Now Kindle versions are available. Then this point of entry is very, very crucial, because this is where people lag in. We don't read any articles from any journal. We don't read much of any books. And at the time you write an article and you want it to get published, the most reason is because of this. Reading is very important. Only after reading you can be writing. But what we do is, while writing we are reading. That is very, very wrong. You have to read. You have to have an insight. You have to read at least 10 articles, associated articles. For example, if you are, I'm an existentialist, I would say. If I am doing an existentialism, I have to read on existentialism 10 to 15 articles that are recent articles, and then I have to attempt it on an author or a writer. So what people do when we are writing itself, we are referring and you're taking copy and paste. This is what is happening. Copy paste then happens. So before that, jot down the points and then write it in your way. It will be very easy. Then furthermore, when we submit our article, they will not be looking alone. I was reading a review of a particular person. It was rejected in social sciences because of the abstract. Okay, they have said it has not been found, some word they have put. So what ultimately they have said, that does not have a proper research. There is a research gap. And what are you? We are not supposed to say this is not found, that is not found. So this is what we do a mistake, because we are not aware. There might be articles, but we are not aware. And when we give an ignorant writing over there, it will not be published. So there are three kinds of writing: expository, analytical, argumentative. So what is an expository paper? It also explains something to a reading audience. Very simple paper. Like we are going to say, in this paper, I will explain as how in Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children, Salim Sinai is the ultimate unreliable brand. This is a direct statement. An analytical paper, you're going to analyze. As we know that. But it breaks down an issue or an idea into its component parts, evaluates the issue or idea, and presents this breakdown in evaluation to the audience. So using Chandra Mohanty's discussion of female agency, in this paper, I will analyze the facts of agency performed. So all these kind of statements are missing in nowadays paper. I have reviewed many papers. These kind of very few papers are having these kind of arguments. So this is already missing. So I will analyze the acts of agency performed by the female characters in Flora Nuapa's Efru. I will also read the text to further elaborate to what particularly enabling conditions with them plot. So this kind of statements has to be there. Argumentative paper makes a claim about a topic and justifies this claim. So most of us, most of literature, I would say, they stop with analytical. Still, argumentative paper, only I can see few papers are coming up now. Most of them do not have that argumentative paper. When do we have that argumentative? Because we need to have specific evidence. When do we have that specific evidence? When we read a lot of articles. That specific evidence is missing in many papers, I would say. So when we don't have this kind of an evidence, you cannot do a theory, or you cannot do any in-depth scientific study. And when you do this kind of specific evidence, you could be on an opinion, you can have a policy proposal, evaluation, and cause and effect statement. This is what is very important, because we do not have that cause and effect statement with evidence. So anything you have to have an evidence. So and you have to refer to that recent papers, like to 2019 or 2018. I received a paper today for SSCI, and they were starting like 1975. They were talking about English language in Kannada, I think. They were talking about in 1975. So 1975 and 2021, there is a gap of 49 years, 45 years above. So where do we have this? So there is a gap here. There is a gap of 45 years. Where did that go? So I just returned the paper to him telling, so you have to have research till 2019. That's what actual Joachim are clearly pointed out, the research gap. That is what is missing in today's paper. So the goal of the argumentative paper is to convince the audience that the claim is true based on evidence provided. So how do we say that evidence is provided? For example, when you take COVID, I'm just giving you an example, apart from literature. Social science people would be talking about COVID on women, COVID on working women, all that. So you have to have a data, or mostly they will be doing quantitative. And when they are doing quantitative, or when they're doing some case studies, they take like around 30 to 50 sometimes. I'm not talking everybody. The mistakes which people make, I would say, even for ELT, for listening skills or reading skills, you're talking about a group of people. People talk about evidence, they say 50 to 60 or 100, but that is not provided. So you have to be narrowing down all your case studies and to a particular area. For example, if it is Tuticorin or Tirunelveli, you have to narrow it, and you have to calculate the population. For example, if you're talking about COVID, how many people were affected, in that how many women were affected. So if it is like 2000 women, you have to take at least for 200 people the statistical data. So when people do not do for 200, when you do for 20, your paper is going to be ultimately rejected. So your quantitative data is very important when you take the statistical data. So you have to convince the audience. Without, when you only interview 10 to 20 people, how can you convince the audience? The audience, I would say, the reviewer. You have to convince the reviewer that I have done a particular study, a proper study. So you have to narrow down. You cannot do 2000 people, I would say, but we'll take the percentage, 10%. If you're taking about 10 schools, you have to go to at least 2 schools and do a study. So this is what an argumentative paper would have, and you would be having a lot of evaluation. Then you would be having cause and effect statement. All that we would be having, and this is going to be a perfect paper. So where we miss is the calculation. So if we are not sure about it, please do ask the statistical people how to do a statistical study, how to do a quantitative study. So they would be giving an insight. Research is something you have to discuss. What we do not know, I learned in such a way. No, I didn't go for any training, but where I read things, and we have studied many things. So you can ask people. There are lot of people who are there to help us. So we can ask them help. So some things to keep in mind for academic publishing. It is about the beginning of the essay, as has said, talking about the theory, talking about the previous work, all that. So the transitions and signposting is what we miss everywhere. So I would like to note on that point. So this kind of thing, having discussed about the earlier, I would now move on to the next step, as it is important for the other step. So when we are having this 3 content, sometimes the argument would not be easy. There would be no connectivity between the first and the second paragraph. So how we are going to connect, it is the matter. So in that case, the signposting is very important. So you have to say, having discussed the earlier content or the earlier matter or the earlier evidence, something you have to have with evidence that you have to, it has to run along your paper. So how to, these are the writing parts. Then now how to submit, how to process for a publication. First, you have to submit the paper. We have to avoid predatory. How to submit the paper? Go to the website, read the author guidelines, read this, and you have to, mostly for Elsevier, you have to go into the Elsevier website, and each journal will be having submission website. We have to process through that. There we have to upload certain documents. So what are the documents it is required? For example, conflict of interest, disclosure of interest, all that they would be asking. So you need to, first, who is the first author? Who is the second author? Who's the third author, fourth author, fifth author? Literature, I don't see much of people coming like 5 authors. I have seen this with science people or social sciences people. You have to decide what work each of you have done. So that example would be given in the journal, and you have to say the disclosure of interest is very important. So in that way, the first and the second writer would be, preparing the manuscript, reviewing the manuscript, editing, overviewing, all that, inspecting, all that some journals give. So you have to be very sure who did which work. You have to also give disclosure of interest. If in case you're doing the case study, you have to get consent from the person whom you have got the case study. Certain journals even ask their signatures. Then the next is avoid predatory and deceptive journals. It is very, very obvious because I've been a victim to it. Like even still now, when we say, I used to, in the group, I used to tell people, this is a fake journal. Okay, this is, you can submit it, but it is of no problem. But this is fake. But people, they ask us, 2000, ma'am, 1500, no problem. I'm really worried, when you give them an option of original journal or processing of 6 months, nobody is interested in. Nobody is interested in 6 months or 1 year. They want fast publication. So this is what the trend of scholars are. Why we need to go at the last minute. I've been telling many of my friends even, please prepare your paper, give it to me. I'll process in proper Taylor and Francis. I'll be processing in proper journal. You need not pay, do the plague check and give. But even then, I see people telling me, give me fast journal. And where to go for fast journal? All fast journals are predatory. So this we have to understand. Any journal, if you need to process into a high impact factor, you have to be very patient. This is what you have to be very patient. Then journal house styles, as you see for English, Mendeley, you can use the software where you can APA style or MLA style would be there in Mendeley. So then you have to have proper revision and possible reviews. What are the possible reviews? First, it would be accept without revisions. This is very, very rare. Okay, without revision, it must be, certain people would have H index of 100 or 200. Those people who would be in SSC or SCI, those very rare, very, very rare. Accept with minor revisions, most of us get. Substantiative revisions, revise and resubmit. So this is what revise and resubmit. When we get, you need to scramble the whole paper and we have to revise and resubmit. Where people are not interested, they would skip to another journal. Unless and until your paper is rejected, please don't skip to another journal. You please, even when you revise and resubmit, you expect what are the comments they're giving. Then if it is rejected, to carry over the comment and then pass on to other journal. What people do is they'll be in an urgency, they want their papers to get published, they will be processing it to 4 journals, okay, with the same mistakes. So sometimes for example, in literature, if somebody is an editor, A is an editor, he might be an editor to XYZ journal. So he without your knowledge, you will not be knowing which editor is for which journal. You would be applying for four different editor journals. The 4 editors would be editors for 16 other journals. When these 4 journals would be rejected at a stretch, these people would be going for another journal with the same editor. So wherever you go, your papers will be rejected if the same editor is there when you're going with the same mistake. So please don't upload your papers to 4 different journals. First, go for a journal, see the editor. If the same editor is within other journal, that particular journal, please don't go. Go with another journal, have a correction. Even if that is not working out, go to another journal. So go from a low impact factor journal. There are the go to Scopus. You will be, when you go to Scopus or when you go to UGC all that impact factor comes in. So you can search where the low impact factor journals are. First, try with that. And if you're used to it, then go to the high impact journals. Why a paper is rejected? No theoretical contribution. Either you need to have a theory, even either it is ELT or literature. We need to have an innovative theoretical contribution. I'm not talking about criticism. You need to form your own methodology of preparing a paper. There is no clear research gap. This is where everybody is lagging in. Then research questions are not fitting research method. So research method, we can see for ELT and social sciences, what kind of research method they are using. And you need to have a research model, because every question we get a research model, and lack of research rigor, that is what is very much lagging in our people, because we are having that, as I said, small number of example. You need to have, when I was asking for a statistical data for a paper, from a max friend to help for my friend, he said, ma'am, I need 2000 samples. So this is what he said for SSCI. So 2000 samples, I asked that particular person to do 2000 samples. So when you do a small number of samples, you need not have for certain other where we don't get much of samples. It's not necessary you need to have that. But when you're taking a survey, there are a lot of papers, original paper, review papers, survey papers, case study papers. There are a lot. When we go for case studies, you need not have 2000 or 3000. There is 30 to 40 is enough, but you need to have proper paperwork. So they ask for proper paperwork. You need to have Google form. You need to have all what you have done, even a receipt. Please keep it carefully. That is what is very much important. I just thought of highlighting on research gap. So research gap is, what is a research gap? It is insufficient information. It limits the ability to reach a conclusion for a question, because we don't have, I find many of the scholars copying literature review from another paper. Don't do that. We are not supposed to do that. You have to read particular books, particular paper. I would say 10 papers. Read that, and then you come to a conclusion and go for your literature review. Copying somebody's literature review is again a research gap. So this is not a research gap. An example I would say, but the topic of risk management in family firms is still scant. This is not a research gap. But these kind of papers are getting rejected. I have given you an example. This paper was particularly rejected because of this particular word. Why? Because you're not supposed to, because you are doing a research. How can, when something is very scant, something is not there, how can you do a research? So those kind of words, we have to be very, very careful in using our words. Then I would just give you an example. What is a research gap? For example, when we ask a question, how to lead a healthy life, a lot of people will give lot of answers. That is not possible research. But what if we ask a question, the impact of COVID on healthy people? Okay, so now still now researchers are going on, or when a healthy person is getting affected by COVID, how his lungs used to be, or how his immunity is going to react. Will he have a COVID attack after 4 years or 5 years? All these kind of research, or how many healthy people were affected, how many of the people had fever, how many didn't have fever, all that data has to be in your literature, or that has to be in your research. So when you come to this particular question, your research is narrowed. So because we do not have much of existing data, this is research gap. It can be narrowed. You can do a survey, you can do a research, and you can come to a conclusion. So you read lot of papers, and you come to a conclusion where this kind of thing can have more research, and where they're not having much of data, or we need to have substantial evidence, all that we can, you have to narrow down your research. That is what we need to identify, a research gap, and we need to find. So what are the challenges? Effort and difficulty. People do a hesitation, lot of, when nobody is doing writing on the new writers. Why? Because we are not ready to read, we are not ready to collect papers, we're not when we go for 20 years back, when Google was not there, or when WhatsApp, or when computers were not well, people go. I used to see my professors calling to Mother Cambridge University and getting notes and getting books. So that was the time where they go to Cambridge University, they sit there and they do their PhD. So all that, it was a time where reading was much. Now when everything is coming, it is in a hand, we are having much of difficulty, putting it in, because a lot of materials you have, you cannot put it in an organized way. And what effort we are giving, much less of amount of effort. And we also have hesitation in questioning established norms. This is what, we expect somebody to be helping us, or somebody, nowadays too much of dependency on the guide, I would say. Initially guide used to only guide, okay, but now it has to be, I find many guides, my friends who used to tell me, Christy, we have to write a paper, it is like childish way how we used to be with our guides. Now guides are finding a difficult time, and I would say Jokum sir has finished 3 people, it's hats off to him. That has become the case now, where people are not putting an effort to write a chapter. People are not having putting effort, to read. That is what is very important. I would say reading is very important. So how can you reduce them down? You have to identify your key motivating issue, find your key terms. How can you find out your key terms? This is a literature review. There is a road runner search where you can put all these, and you can get your proper papers, or you can find where to find this research gap. This is this road runner search you can use, where you can spot your research gap, and you can work on it. Then this is a literature review, as sir has talked about literature, so I'm not talking about it. What is the common reason for your papers are getting rejected or reviews? Is talking about the tables and figures. I see many of the figures, pointing out to figure 3, pointing out to figure 2, all that they mismatch. So certain journals ask us to paste only the figures separately, tables separately. So they are very calculated, they're very, very, very perfect. So you have to go through your paper once or twice. So you have to talk about the results and discussions, where in SCI papers or SSCI papers, or Arts and Humanities Citation Index papers, your result and discussion, if you don't have your result and discussion, your papers are automatically getting rejected. I've processed many papers where most of the problem lies with the results and discussions. There'll be 4 lines only for results. There'll be only 4 lines for discussion. There'll be umpteen number of tables and figures. They do not know how to calculate, and we also do not know how to read. So this would be the problem. Then you have to be very precise. I would not say, all the papers are like that. There are very beautiful papers which comes, ELT. A sir from Iraq, he gave me a paper. It was wonderful. And we processed the paper, and it's about to, and it was accepted. It was very, very nice. There was no corrections, I would say. That results and the discussion, the way he brought it was very nice. So you need to read certain kind of papers. And also inaccurate data. Please don't make up any data. Data, when you make up certain data for statistical, your figures or your, because the person who's reviewing, he or she would be in that particular field. When you talk about Taylor and Francis, all of us, I thought when I was initially applying for the proposal, I thought it was an easy task, but it was not an easy task at all. For humanities or for ELT or for something, they have different kind of editors who are in that field. I would say they are like geniuses in that particular field. So we should not consider a reviewer to be one among us. They are far more greater than us. So they know where we are wrong by seeing, very good, when we will be able to In literature people, when we are accounting, we cannot do accounting, but an accountant, what would they see when you calculate even tax? We are not able to calculate tax. But those kind of people, when they see itself, they will say where the wrong is. The same way, statistical data, literature people, if we are wrong, we would be caught. uh, that kind of inaccurate data we cannot put. So potential, so we have to be very careful, and we are not supposed to have, slight modulation we can make, but not everything cannot be cooked up. So when we cook data, it is a problem. So how to avoid these problems? Please have an organized structure. We have to have an outline. So some people come to me for asking how to write a paper bluntly. No, ma'am, how to write a paper? So, you need to read a novel, write an outline. What is the story? Then put a subheading. Then write, what kind of hypothesis question can you ask? What kind of theory can be associated? And what kind of, and end the thing, for future scholars, what we can do. So what your follow future researchers can, what can you help your paper, how it can help the future researchers, or what you're telling for the society. All these things has to be there. If it is an ELT, it is very good. Your result figures should be very clear, and what you want to convey, it should be photo ready. That is what I would say. It should be like a clear picture. It should not be mismatched. Then also you need to have, you need to emphasize the significance of your research, and also very much important is good writing. Please give a grammatical correction. If you are not sure about your correction, please don't go to Grammarly, or please, Grammarly is good, but people, what they do is they cut, copy, paste and paste it over there, and at least you must know how to correct that. Paraphrasing is easy, doing this, but sometimes sometimes they make mistakes of certain, like novel spellings, all that you don't know, you cannot see. So please, you can get help from a literature person, and you ask them to proofread. It is very important. Proofreading, you as a researcher, you go through your paper once and also go for a grammar check. Then you have to highlight for a discussion session the significance of your findings. This is what is very important. Please don't know, it has not, we should be an essay at all. The significance of a writing is very important. In that way, it will fill our gap, research gap, and what is and how your research is being implicated. Then you must avoid generalizing, you must avoid misinterpreting, and you should not draw a conclusion. That is, and the last of all is your English grammar correction is very important, as I said, because a good research paper has both qualities of good studies and good writing. So this is what is very important. And also I forgot to add a thing is, you should not add have not added, or have not presented, have not discussed, have not submitted. All those kind of words, please do avoid in your discussions and results, because you as a researcher has to be very, very sure how your how your research paper should be. Instead, you should not have a doubt, and you should not give an idea to the reviewer telling it is not novel. It has to be your paper is very much novelty. You should not give a research gap over there, or you should not be blank in your research telling that this has not been researched, this is not the have not been discussed, have not been. Don't, please avoid all those kind of words. You have to be very. And also some people, when they get a rejection message from the reviewer, you have to be polite. And some people, how can you reject my paper, it was accepted in that journal. Then what they would say, they would not even reply. So you don't please give offensive messages to the reviewer. If it is rejected, accept politely, and please be polite in your communication, because that is very, very, very important. So this is my presentation. If any questions are there, you can ask me.
Can I ask question?
Yes.
This is Joshua from Bishop Appasamy College, Coimbatore.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Nice meeting you here. I'm one of the group members
Oh,
in
thank
that
you.
WhatsApp group.
I remember
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Yeah. When we write a research paper, can we use subheadings? Because in ELT we used to have like the limitation of the study or the scope of all these things in I mean, in ELT we used to have, but in literature I don't find people using the side headings or the subheadings.
Yes, for Scopus indexed journal like Q4, they don't use. But I have seen SCI journals in case when I see SSCI journals. Today, I happen to see in you can visit English for specific purposes. They what I have I was admiring that particular paper where it was ELT, but they have incorporated literature in it also, and they have given side headings. And when it comes to Q2 or Q3, please go to the site websites. Certain journals say they need 5 components. Some they do not insist on. So it depends on the particular journal. They would be giving you introduction. We need to have literature review. Most of our literature people do not give literature review. So certain journals insist on side headings.
Okay, I happen to be the victim of rejection for using side headings in one of the Scopus journals. So
Now,
they
certain
kind of
journals
said like,
you have to no sir, you can go to Taylor and Francis, there'll be sample papers. Check the sample papers, because certain journals, I happen to see now while preparing for this session itself, few journals they were asking 5 literature review. They ask for literature review, but when you incorporate literature review, we need to have side headings. There are certain universities also, they in Tamil Nadu, how many universities are there. Each of them have different methodology. MS University is much different. We don't use side headings here at all. But I see certain universities there in Bharatidasan and all. I think sometimes they use side headings for literature review, I say. Sometimes you have to refer the journals. When you give me a paper itself, I will see only according to the author guidelines.
thank you so much, ma'am. Maybe I'll send the paper to you so that you can review on it.
Yes, sir. Please do
Thank
send
you.
it with page report. And also, I would like to add one more thing. Somebody asked a question to Joachim, so I would like to give an answer to that. For literature, you are quoting from fiction. Okay, you are quoting from fiction. And for SSCI journal, there should be plagiarism less than 8%. And even if it is a primary source, it should not be more than 1%. Okay, you can quote from plagiarism, you can quote from your primary sources like your fiction. That should be only 1%, not more than 1%. Any book, it can be, one book should not have 1% above. Total, it has to be 7%. I think I'm clear with that.
Yes, someone else has raised. Sheila Aura. Do you have any question to ask? Yes. Yeah, Dr. Ganeshans has raised hands. Doctor from Malaysia.
Yes, Dr. Aloysius, how are you?
Yeah, fine, sir. How are you?
I'm very fine. I'm very fine.
Very happy to see you once again. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Christy, how are you? Very good session, actually, in fact. Just now you were telling about the WhatsApp group, is it?
Yes.
I want to know whether I can join the WhatsApp group.
You can,
Publication
no
one. Huh?
Yes. She has got for science separately and for arts.
Yes, because literature people are getting confused. Literature people are not having good journals.
Okay.
So science people have a lot of journals. When I post those journals,
Yes,
people
I
are getting
agree with you.
confused.
Actually, for science people, the publishing in high impact journal is not to say quite easy. Most of them are publishing in Scopus and ISI.
Yes.
Very familiar.
Yes,
But
yeah.
for arts people like my case, it's quite difficult to publish in Scopus or ISI. It's not easy, in fact.
Yes,
Sometimes
yeah.
rejection, as you say just now, and waiting for so long, maybe more than 6 months. And then when you get the result, some writers get disappointed, and then they give up. So this shouldn't happen. Actually, in fact, as you said,
Yes.
right, we can send to
A study has to be done, on the editors first.
Yes,
This
yes.
editor is there in any other journal. People, what do they know? One paper they uploaded in 10 websites. That's a problem. And rejection, the paper is not going through to any other journal and they're not getting reply. That is why it's happening now, actually.
For a beginner, I mean, like PhD students or for a beginner, I think they can go for other index journal, not necessarily for an ISI
Yeah,
or
low
Scopus.
impact journals, they can go. They can go for
Yes.
very low impact journals.
To get experience, I mean, how to write the procedures of the journal, then they can slowly upgrade themselves. That
Yes.
should be giving motivation to them, in fact, for the
Yes,
new
sir.
writers, in
Yes,
fact.
yes, yes, sir.
So anyway, you can share the link for your WhatsApp
Yeah,
group.
I'll share the link. I'll share the
In
link.
the, I think just now someone was asking in the chat box also,
Yes, they
the
were
link.
asking me. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Dr. Aloysius, see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is my session.
Oh yes, yes, sure, yeah.
With Prof.
Yeah.
Bala tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow will be yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you
I
very
have,
much, Christy. Very good session.
oh,
Very good.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much,
Excuse me,
sir.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Shiloh, yes.
Excuse me, ma'am. This is Shello. So, can I have my like? Can I ask a question?
yes, you can.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. That was really a wonderful session, and I really have heard so much about you from Serena ma'am and Amuda ma'am from
Oh, thank
Saint
you.
Mary's. So,
Thank you.
I always wanted to hear
I'm
your sessions.
students, Amuda ma'am was my economics teacher and
Yes, ma'am.
Sharina
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So she was my aunt. So she always says so much about you.
Thank you.
So I'm really happy, and I always have seen so much support being given for engineering stream or science stream like ESCI, Web of Science, Scopus, and SCI. So I always felt that humanities was not given so much attention, and even I was a victim for predatory journals. Like, I really felt so much wounded because there was so much amount of effort from my side and long hours being invested. So it was really very hurtful, and it was really bad. The reception we received was really bad. So currently I'm doing my research on journals and so many other things. Still, it'll be really happy and wonderful if I can get such a literary association with you, ma'am. Christy,
Yeah,
ma'am.
definitely, definitely,
So
definitely,
would
definitely.
definitely like to continue the literary connection, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously, I give WhatsApp voice messages also.
yeah,
That is not at all an issue. Anytime anybody can get help from me. Some people would be asking, there are a lot of money business going on. We don't do that.
exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
if you're giving a paper, I would review it, and please do give me with the plague report, and I
Yes,
will
ma'am.
review it locally, and I will tell you if this paper would go through, because without a paper getting, publishing, without without your paper of good quality, and what is the purpose of me getting money from you and dodging? That is not right, I would say, because I've
Exactly,
been
ma'am.
a victim of it. I have lost more than a lakh of money of conducting a conference.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
I've been very calculated nowadays. When you're doing, I will tell them itself. People, this is the case. What do you want? That's it. So if it is fake, it is fake. So arts and humanities indexed journal nowadays people want, but I see no one is coming for long-term journals. That is what, when you say engineering, they are in a position. I worked in engineering colleges. The pressure to them is really for the promotion is great, but in arts it's not that so. UGC care, that's all. So nobody in English knows about impact journals. I would say they are very much ignorant. Now it is coming a situation where you need to have Scopus for nerve, not for knack. So it will take some time, I would say, more than 5 years to have
Yes,
a Scopus indexed knowledge. That will take time, but where we are having resources, that is what I was applying when I was in UK. I was applying for a job for in a university for a PhD assistant. Somebody's doing PhD and I'm being an assistant. I was not given job because I didn't have SSCI indexed journal. So even for being an assistant, I need an SSCI. Then you imagine the PhD, how much they would expect them to be. So where do we stand? This is where it is. So when I was in UK, I learned a lot. You have to be very successful in research. You have to have some knowledge, and we have to do research. Or knowledge doesn't come by seeing; it's only in your H index.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, really. for having this session. And thank you, Lavender Literary Club, for making Christy ma'am. And I'm really happy that finally I got a chance to see her session. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other questions? And anybody is free to ask me any doubts. I can clear them anytime. So, Albert sir, can we end the session?
Ma'am,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
may I ask a question?
Yes, you can, ma'am.
Uh, Actually, I would like to thank the entire organization, organizing team for such a wonderful presentation for the past 2 days. Ma'am, could you add a note on how to write a cover letter for manuscript submission?
First to the editor, then you have to write that you are writing, particularly presenting or giving this paper for the publication, and your hypothesis, your why this paper is important, what kind of research you have done, and how this will be useful. These it should be in a crisp, and say that your paper is not having plagiarism and you have no malpractices, nothing. So if evidence is asked, you will be submitting. For case studies, for especially for social sciences, they are asking signature of the particular candidate if they are doing on COVID patients.
Then, if it is about a mini review or something like that.
Sorry, if it's a review paper, it is not necessary. But I would say invest some. If you are planning for SSCI, that is a big procedure. Please do call me. I can say I think we will not be having enough time because SSCI paper is not as Scopus index paper. That is really a tougher job. Because computer science people will know SCI how it is. SSCI it is we are not into it actually. That will have a wider research, narrowed wider research. Okay. How, for example, mostly I would say literature is bit very much difficult because you need to be in the library for most of the hours. ELT is easier in SSCI. So statistical data is very important. Sometimes if you have funding, how much you did the research, we have done with 5 people or 10 people, you have some invested some time, right? All that has to be accounted. So in case if they are asking you, sometimes they will say contrary, no, we can put and send. Some journals ask. In that case, we can give. Mostly they don't ask. In that case, it's not necessary.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you.